It's time for today's face-off on Fox Soul. Challengers Quan LX and Big Angry Adams, ready to go blow by blow on those hot topics. Face-off on Fox Soul starts right now.
All right, let's talk about this Janet Jackson quote. Before I start, I said this when the nomination happened, that regardless if you're voting for Kamala or not, regardless if you like her or not, any of the racism that was going to be hurled her way over the next 3+ months, it was going to be thrown back at everyday black people. As we have seen in the 2 months since that nomination switch, it was a lot. So for Janet Jackson to tote the Sergeant Noir question of Kamala's blackness that Trump was spewing right before the debate, it is disappointing. It also got people bringing up a whole bunch of stuff when it regards to her brother Randy and Joe Jackson, and if he actually liked black people or didn't like black people who were too black. That's a whole nother video. The story has gotten so big that the white trades are now picking it up. Here is the full article from The Guardian. You can pause to read. Listen, Demeanor Joe, you're gonna have to come on here and make a video of you whispering an apology, because this is not good. This is not good. Regardless of how people feel about her, this is not good, especially since we just saw you at Essence Fest.
In this round, here's Charles Big Angry Adams.
So, Quanell, that was a TikToker discussing a statement made by Janet Jackson that she had heard that a presidential candidate and current Vice President Kamala Harris was not black, right? This did proliferate, especially in conservative media spaces, and I think it exemplifies the dangers of disinformation. Now, I don't agree with the left now arguing for making disinformation illegal. I think people will have an opportunity to be wrong and a right to be wrong, and I think free speech is far more important. But this is a myth about Kamala Harris, and I think to some degree she has code switched and represented herself as Indian and other things that is giving fuel to that. But the very simple truth is that even when somebody like Janet Jackson, this younger generation doesn't realize how important Janet Jackson was both to the culture, hip-hop music, and
R&B.
but pop music generally, and the American culture. You know, she was so important, and everyone loved her. She busted all genres. In the mid and late 80s, she was as iconic, if not more so, than her brother. And she had a lot of longevity. I have a lot of love for Janet Jackson, but she's absolutely wrong here. Kamala Harris's father was absolutely Afro-Caribbean, and Kamala Harris's dad is black, and her mom is Indian. And so the question is, does that make you biracial? But no one questioned the blackness of President Obama, who had a black father and a white mom raised in a white household. I think it's obscene for people to question her heritage, and I think Janet Jackson's wrong here, and I think she was listening to the crazy liars on the Twitters.
Janet Jackson and the Jackson family have been an iconic family in America for generations.
Right.
In fact, it is arguably that they're the most prominent African-American family in entertainment in American history, because Michael Jackson was just that much of a huge worldwide, global, iconic phenom.
So was she.
Exactly. But my concern here is, I don't like now, because of what she had to say and speaking what she believed was her own thoughts in regards to Kamala Harris, it's now pitting one black woman against another black woman, when right now there's been so much momentum in this country of black women, quote unquote, getting behind Kamala Harris. And now you have white conservative media pundits, outlet newscasters, and Republicans who are extremists will now take Janet's words to attempt to drive a wedge between black women away from Kamala Harris in hopes that this would damage her on election day. The same conservatives that are doing this and taking Janet's words and highlighting them, they hate Kamala Harris and they hate Janet Jackson too. And so I don't like that the enemy is now using two black women to jump and fight against one another publicly, and now taking others like D.L. Hughley, who had some very insulting things to say about our sister Janet Jackson because of her criticizing Miss Harris's authentic blackness, which none of us should do.
You've done it.
That's not what I did.
You have questioned her blackness. You've said she's not real black.
I didn't say that. You a lamb liar.
Okay,
you're absolute liar.
Y'all got to watch the reruns.
This is what I said. What I said was She ran for political office, and she always said that she never wanted to be seen as a black candidate. She ran for political office and always said that I'm a proud Indian woman, and she made that crystal clear. And whenever her blackness was brought up to her, she ran away from it. So I never said she was not black. I'm saying that she would not own up to a blackness like she would her Indian heritage.
But she actually did.
And no, she did not.
Yes,
She's
she did.
doing it now. She's owning
She
up to her
went
black
to
heritage.
HBCU.
No, but still,
she's a prominent member.
But what did I
of
say?
A
I said when she ran for political
African-American
office,
sorority.
she did not stand that I'm a black candidate. In fact, she said she didn't want to be seen as that. And she always raised the proudness of being an Indian woman. And I say this to Kamala Harris. What the hell do you have to be proud of about being an Indian woman when Indian culture hates black people? Do the research. Look up the Hindu caste system. And if you go to India right now today, black people in India are called the untouchables based on the very laws of India. And a black man and woman cannot even get married in India legally to this day. So I say to Kamala Harris, let's tell the truth about your quote unquote Indian heritage and how Indian people in India see black people.
But what I always find so interesting with you is that you are appropriately decrying racism in one moment, and then in the very next moment, you shift and you talk about other races and other cultures.
I'm giving you the
as
law.
if they are a monolith.
The problem is you have not looked
don't
it up.
say all black people are bad.
You have not
but
done
hey,
the research.
all Indian people are bad. Indian
Let me
culture
say this
is bad.
to you.
Why are you such a bigot?
Do you know, let me give you some facts. Do you know that Mahatma Gandhi himself spoke foul about black people? Wait a minute.
But what does that have to do with all of Indian people?
The most iconic Indian figure in my lifetime and yours, said that black people should never be allowed to integrate into Indian society because we were inferior to Indians. Mahatma Gandhi himself. You can't talk to me about this because I'll tear your damn world up with the facts.
Firstly, Gandhi died before either of us were alive, I believe, but far more importantly, I'm not criticizing your criticism of the caste system, which is horrifying. I'm not criticizing
a legal law in India.
Your valid criticism of any culture that says skin color defines.
And they still go by that law to this day in India.
Again,
the proud Indian culture she's so proud
there are
of.
hundreds of millions of Indians that suffer from the caste system to this day.
They're the black Indians. They're the dark-skinned Hindus. Okay. They're the dark-skinned black Indian Hindu people of India, not the white ones in India.
Hold on. But at the end of the day, what you're doing is you're criticizing all Indian people.
I'm not doing it. I'm criticizing the laws that they have in place that treat black people as inferior and say we're less than human.
Kamala Harris shouldn't be proud of her Indian heritage.
I said no. I said let's talk about what she's proud of.
Why do you lie so much?
I didn't say she shouldn't be proud.
Yes, you did.
I said let's talk about what you're proud of.
Yeah, don't be a bigot.
Allow gangs to enter our country.
The migrants that are coming, they're taking over every block right now.
The city of Chicago is going to go up in smoke, it's going to go up in flames.
Gangs in Chicago are angry over the influx of migrants and criminals in their city. They say money that should be going to the African American community on the South Side is instead going to what they call non-citizens, and warn that turf wars between Chicago's gangs and groups like Venezuela's Tren de Aragua could see Chicago, quote, go up in flames. Photographer Matt McDermott and I traveled to Chicago's South Side to see what was happening for ourselves after we heard about a police report last month that the Tren de Aragua gang had taken over an office building there. We spoke to a number of young, hardcore gang members, as well as gang elders who have retired from the life, and just regular citizens who are very much part of the community. And they're all furious at the estimated $500 million that's reportedly been funneled toward new migrants in Chicago since 2022. And they aren't happy either about what they say are Venezuelan criminal gangs that are leaving the shelters and spilling out into the South Side into abandoned buildings. I spoke to Tyrone Muhammad of Ex-Cons for Trump, who runs a street patrol and violence prevention program. He's gone straight since his days as an enforcer for the Gangster Disciples. And he said the situation is very tense on the south side as turf battles between the local gangs and Venezuelan migrants heat up.
It is impossible to release gang members and criminals into our country through the borders and broken walls and then infiltrate them in our communities that's already impoverished, that's already broken, that's already disinvested. And when the black gangs, the leadership in the black gangs in Chicago get fed up with the illegalities and the criminal activity of these migrants or non-citizens, the city of Chicago is gonna go up in smoke, it's gonna go up in flame, and there's gonna be nothing that the National Guard or our government can do about it when the bloodshed hit the streets.
In this round, here's Quanell X.
That was a very serious segment that we just watched there, Charles. And we on this show have talked about, and you've made a lot of points about those immigrants that were being bused in Chicago and those coming across the border and how dangerous it is. And you've talked about even the resources of black people in south side of Chicago being taken from them, given to the migrants. Now it has reached a powder keg. And it is true that those black gang members in the city of Chicago, that's a whole different ball game, Charles. There you have a city with, I'm talking about tens of thousands of vice lords, GDs, gangster disciples, and these street gangs are not just disorganized, unorganized gangs like you see across the country in some other cities. These are some of the most organized street organizations that are extremely violent when it has been dealing with one another, unfortunately. And we've always fought against that killing. But now it seems in the crosshairs is going to be those Venezuelan migrants that are coming from Venezuela and other parts of Central America being busted to Chicago. The Democratic Party needs to listen and take serious notice to this, because the black people in Chicago are not asleep. They know that what was supposed to have been allocated to them is no longer being given to them, it's being given to the migrants, because the Democrats want to make them the new voting bloc for Democrats, because they see so many black men in particular stepping away from the Democratic Party. So they're rewarding the immigrants with everything that once used to go to us in the inner cities. Once black people get angry about the criminal element coming across the border, that will organize, and their desire is to organize, because Trump was right when he said that some of these South American countries are sending their prisoners, cleaning out their prisons, sending them across the border. If they're not careful, Charles, a war will erupt in that city, and the Democrats will have that blood on their hands, because they were the ones who invited them to come and gave them financial benefits and rewards and housing when they came.
So I agree with some of that. I disagree. I think this story has been manufactured by and overblown by the right-wing media for political purposes. Right? I think there is not a huge chance of an all-out violent turf war that's very different than what's been going on in the south side of Chicago for many, many years, in which is way, way too much violence. And I agree that I don't think the powerful Democrats have cared about the everyday reality of poor urban law-abiding citizens. I think you see that, famous stories about O Block and all of this in Chicago. I think you have seen suffering and a failure to enforce the law and the failure to protect law-abiding citizens, while also denying them the right to protect themselves or have access to firearms to protect themselves, while doing very little to stymie the flow of firearms to bad people. I also think that, yes, our country is doing way too much for migrants and way too little for citizens, but the Republicans don't want to do anything for anybody, right? I think it's obscene that an illegal entrant is going to have health care where a struggling American is not. I think it's obscene.
But that's what's happening in
they're
Chicago.
Buying them cars, giving them rent. Oh,
closing down black community centers, filling them with migrants, closing down black schools, and telling the black students in Chicago and New York to stay at home because we got to use your school for migrants. But black folk have enough problems with having a real public school education that's worth a damn in the first place. Now you're going to send our kids home to house migrants?
But there's a wholesale demonization of immigrants that I don't think is fair. I don't think the majority of people are Venezuelan, Trinidad members. I do think far too many criminals that are coming in this country.
This is what
but
you're
a real
missing.
problem is the fact that the sanctuary city
Charles,
nonsense took hold everywhere.
You need to listen to me when I tell you this.
Did you see the Democrats vote against deporting people for sexual assault?
Charles, I'm not shocked.
Right? I mean,
Charles, let me say this to you, brother.
We need to have rules.
Charles.
But we also need to make it easier for law-abiding people to immigrate.
All it takes is one black person, and God forbid it's a black youth or child, that's killed by a criminal Venezuelan gang in Chicago.
It's already happened.
By a black child.
Yeah, it's already happened.
Listen to me. Black gang members will go in there and wipe them all out.
Okay.
Charles, they will go in there and kill immigrants indiscriminately and wipe them all out, brother. Unfortunately, that's the truth.
Hold on. Black gang members that they've interviewed are talking about how there's not a unity. There's more unity with the Venezuelans.
And you know what?
And why is that
That's true because they're the small minority migrant.
Hey,
but I'm telling you, they'll go in and they'll wipe them clean, brother.
Let's advocate just for America.
I want peace.
For Americans.
I want peace, but the Democrats set this thing up.
Stop letting criminals in.
In today's face-off, up.
Hey, that's pretty good right there. He shoved out. 210. I'm 210. 441. Okay. 9 3-inch hair. 8.5 inch.
Charles, for the sake of transparency, let me be honest. I'm an avid, lifetime, faithful Dallas Cowboy fan. But Jerry Jones...
Shouldn't have been talking about me on TV.
Jerry Jones needs Jesus.
Jerry Jones needs to stop talking about me and my penis.
Jerry Jones talks about one of his players.
No, he was talking about
size of his hands.
He was talking about me. Look at these big old hands.
Talked about the size of his feet.
Yep.
And then talked about the size of the man's penis.
He was talking about mine.
But white men in this country have always had a fascination about the black yardstick, the black pipeline, the black human baseball club. And white men have always had that fascination about the length.
Why can't we just talk about Jerry Jones?
The power
Why you
and
gotta
the
talk about
strength
all white men?
Of a man's penis, a black man's penis. That's why the Dallas Cowboys can't win right now. That's why we are making a mockery of a professional football team in the last 3 games. The Dallas Cowboy defense can't stop a can't stop a damn nosebleed. The Dallas Cowboy defense is so soft, look like somebody hit them in the back of the head with a yardstick. The Dallas Cowboys running game is so pathetic, it looks like he should be worried about that more than a black man's size of his penis. But I'm not shocked that Jerry would talk like this, because if he knows the size of a player's penis, that means he knows the size of all the black players on his team penises. So that means that this freak been measuring the penises of black football players for God knows how long. And so I think the United States government, the Department of Justice, the FBI should investigate Jerry Jones, since he's been quote unquote secretly or openly measuring the black man's penis of the players who play for the Dallas Cowboys. I want to know CeeDee Lamb from Texas, from Houston. I want to know Micah Parsons. I want to know Brother Ezekiel Elliott. Did this man have you all's penises measured also? How in the hell he know the size of a man's penis? I think that's a pedophile, and he might be worse than the Diddy freak-offs.
Hey, first off, Jerry Jones is talking about a grown man, and he is a grown man, so that's not pedophilia. That's grown men talking about
If
children.
he measuring men's penises?
Grown men, that's not pedophilia.
No. That's against the rules. That's sexual exploitation. That is also sexual assault.
But it's not
you
pedophilia.
You don't measure my rod without my permission.
But it's not pedophilia. But let's go. Let's go from the beginning here. So first of all, Jamie Foxx live streaming. That's what people should know when other people live stream. And I'll talk out of turn. Jerry Jones makes a comment about the size of the hands and the feet of a player, and then makes a crack about the size of his penis. And you have used that, right, to suggest that all white men are obsessed with black penis.
Well, there's some historical facts to back it up. Like the castrating of black men. Doing lynching, doing slavery. They would castrate black men on purpose. Do your research.
Okay. Again, you being a racist.
That's a fact.
And then you take from your racism, then you want the government to investigate Jerry Jones because he made a comment. I don't know, you played football, didn't you? I know you're a tiny little thing, but you played football.
But at the combine, they don't measure your penis.
Hold on.
At the combine, they don't measure your penis.
But you ever been in a locker room?
Yes, many of them.
And
at the combine, they don't measure your penis. So how in the hell he know the size of a man's penis?
I don't know, but I don't know. I
Because
assume he saw it in the locker room.
he's been having those players' penises secretly measured, or those players have been too embarrassed to tell the public that this man makes us measure our.
I know that you don't know this with your tiny little thing, but us men with big penises are more than willing to walk around the locker room and let everybody see.
You're a white man, Charles. You tall and that's all. You tall and that's all, Charles. Because you know you all have a fantasy about brothers.
I think
now you looking at
you got like size 6 feet.
Blood. You're looking at real Mozambique, Nigerian, Zimbabwe, Tanzania.
Foot Locker kids, Quadell. You a tiny little man with tiny little feet.
Look, and that's all. Look, you know brothers.
But why?
Bring the real law.
Why aren't we talking about Jerry Jones? Why aren't we talking about them trash Cowboys?
If Jerry Jones wants to know the size of a black man's
Jerry
penis,
Jones underwear on.
All he got to do, if Jerry Jones wants to know the size of a black man's penis, all they got to do is just go home and ask some of the female members of your family.
If Jerry Jones
if he go home and ask some of the female members of his family, they can tell him about the real
Jerry Jones
and width of that chocolate yardstick.
Oh, come on.
That's it for the Face Off on Fox Soul. We'll catch you next time.